this moment, I'm sitting there going, no, keep one lot, sell the rest. No, sell the whole thing and get out of here.
They say tragedy often strips away the masks people wear and reveals the truth of who they really are. When the unthinkable happened and Garrison Brown took his own life, fans of Sister Wives braced themselves for an emotional reckoning from the Brown family. Viewers expected grief, heartbreak, and perhaps accountability from a father who had just lost his son. But what the world witnessed instead was not the raw sorrow of a parent devastated by loss. It was something far more unsettling. Instead of a father mourning his child, they saw a man drowning in self-pity, blame, and entitlement. Whatever image remained of Kody Brown as a caring patriarch seemed to shatter before everyone's eyes. As the cameras returned to the family in the days after Garrison's passing, fans thought they would see grief, reflection, maybe even humility from Kody. They hoped for a father speaking tenderly about his son, honoring his life and memory. But what came instead left viewers stunned. In a moment that should have been filled with compassion, Kody turned inward. He began pointing fingers at everyone around him, blaming the divisions in the family, blaming estranged relationships, blaming circumstances, blaming everything and everyone but himself. There was no heartfelt remembrance of who Garrison was, no attempt to speak like a father broken by the weight of loss. Instead, Kody used that moment to paint himself as the true victim, speaking about his pain, his suffering, and his resentment. Fans watched in disbelief as Kody complained about how he had been treated, focusing on his own experiences rather than the tragedy at hand. His words carried bitterness, not against the devastating reality of losing a son, but against Janelle, Garrison's mother. Viewers were horrified that in a moment of unimaginable grief, he could still direct his anger toward her, rather than show even the smallest gesture of empathy. For many who had followed the family for years, this was the final confirmation of something they had suspected all along. Kody was no longer capable of showing the kind of love a father should. The truth is that Kody and Garrison's relationship had been strained long before his death. The fractures became painfully obvious during the pandemic when Kody enforced strict rules that kept him isolated in Robyn's home. He insisted that everyone follow his protocols, yet somehow only Robyn's household ever managed to meet those demands. To Garrison, and to his brother Gabe, it felt like favoritism disguised as safety. They wanted fairness. They wanted their father to be present. For everyone equally, not only for Robyn's children. But when they pushed back, Kody did not meet them with love or understanding. Instead, he gave ultimatums: obey me or lose access to me. For a son seeking connection and fairness, this was crushing. Over time, Garrison stopped trying. His distance grew, his disappointment became clear, and the pain was visible even to viewers who only saw fragments of his life on screen. What was most heartbreaking is that even with all this visible tension, Kody chose not to repair the bond. Instead, he deepened his loyalty to Robyn, leaving other relationships to wither. When Garrison's death came, fans thought the loss would finally break through Kody's defenses and bring self-awareness. Instead, they saw the opposite. Social media erupted with outrage. Reddit threads filled with analysis, YouTube videos broke down each detail, and Twitter was flooded with disbelief. The question on everyone's mind was the same. Where was the grief? Where was the remorse? Where was the father who should have been shattered? What they saw was a man clinging to his pride and his bitterness. Even in tragedy, he seemed incapable of stepping outside his ego to honor his son's memory. The moment that truly set viewers on fire was when Kody finally sat down with Janelle. This was their first meeting since their son's passing, and fans hoped to see them find comfort in each other's pain. Instead, the encounter became another battlefield. Rather than offering compassion, Kody launched accusations. He blamed Janelle for the distance between him and their children. He accused her of sabotaging his role as a father. To many, this was nothing short of cruel. She had been the one carrying the emotional burden of raising their children, often without Kody's support, while he invested his energy in Robyn. In the moment when unity should have been most important, he deepened the divide. This was not just sad, it was infuriating. It showed fans a truth they could no longer ignore. Even in the face of death, Kody Brown's narcissism held firm. The tragedy did not awaken humility or remorse. It revealed just how deeply self-absorbed he had become. Viewers who had once defended him could no longer do so. The mask had slipped entirely. For many fans, the events surrounding Garrison's death confirmed that the fractures in the family were not simply bad luck or circumstance. They were the result of choices. Choices that consistently favored one household over the others. Choices that prioritized pride over compassion. Choices that left wounds that might never heal. And behind all of this, fans could not ignore the presence of Robin Brown. While the show often portrayed Robin as misunderstood or overly emotional, careful viewers had long noticed her influence. From the moment the family moved to Flagstaff, she began positioning herself and her children at the center of Kody's world. Her presence grew stronger while his connections with the rest of the family grew weaker. When the pandemic arrived, she found the perfect cover. The protocols that Kody used to justify his distance became the tool that further cemented Robin's central role. Her household had access. The others were left out in the cold. Fans noticed that while other wives and children experienced rejection and absence, Robin's family enjoyed Kody's constant presence. To them, it seemed like manipulation disguised as circumstance, and Kody allowed it. He leaned into the comfort of one household while alienating the rest. The imbalance was impossible to miss, and Garrison's death brought the consequences of that imbalance into sharp, painful focus. Instead of a father overwhelmed by grief, viewers saw a man incapable of seeing beyond his own bitterness. Instead of a husband standing shoulder to shoulder with Janelle in mourning, they saw accusations and blame. And instead of a patriarch who could rally his fractured family, they saw a man more isolated than ever, consumed by ego and resentment. The tragedy revealed not just the loss of a beloved son, but the loss of whatever image Kody once had as a leader, a husband, and a father.
What is confusing for me is that I don't see the deal breakers between Kody and Christine. But I don't mean to cast judgment.
Suddenly, what once felt like ordinary family visits began to come with conditions, and even the simplest hug carried hidden caveats. The only household that seemed to consistently pass the invisible and ever-changing test was Robin's. At first, it looked like caution in the name of safety, but soon it became obvious that it was never about health. It was about control. Robin wasn't merely shielding her family from a virus. She was protecting her position as the sole source of emotional validation for Kody. In her unspoken rules, access to Kody ran directly through her, and if anyone wanted his time, affection, or even approval, it meant going through Robin first. Even Mary, who for years had been cast aside emotionally and neglected by Kody, found herself drawn back into Robin's orbit. Yet she wasn't welcomed as an equal or a sister wife in the truest sense of the word. Instead, she became a pawn in Robin's game, a compliant figure used to symbolize loyalty without ever posing any real threat. Mary was useful so long as she remained quiet, lonely, and compliant. Robin didn't want to build true bonds with her. She wanted a symbol of submission. And this reflected the greater truth of what Robin wanted. She didn't want sister wives, she wanted subjects. When she couldn't control someone, she found ways to push them out, and no one resisted her control more consistently than Janelle. Robin never figured out how to manage her. Janelle was calm, direct, and fiercely independent. She didn't cry to Kody or plead for his attention. She didn't beg for affection or approval. She spoke plainly, she stood firm, and that made her dangerous to Robin. Robin's power had always rested on emotional manipulation, on weaponizing tears and fragility to keep Kody tethered to her. But with Janelle, those tactics failed. Robin could not manipulate a woman who didn't require validation from Kody to feel whole. When emotional strings failed, Robin turned to a new tactic. She began to play the card of family unity. Any disagreement with her was painted as betrayal of the family. Any attempt at boundaries was labeled abandonment. Independence became framed as disloyalty. In Robin's version of plural marriage, unity only existed when everyone deferred to her authority and catered to her needs, and Kody accepted it without hesitation. He embraced Robin's framing wholeheartedly, swallowing the narrative that she was the peacemaker, the one keeping the family together. But fans saw something far different. They saw that Robin was not a mediator, but a gatekeeper, carefully constructing a wall around herself and Kody so high that even his own children struggled to climb over it. What once looked like plural marriage now resembled a monarchy. Robyn had crowned herself queen, and Kody willingly or blindly played her king. While they built walls of comfort and control around their little kingdom, Janelle was left to face a painful awakening, and her story became powerful not because of how deeply she was betrayed, but because of how steadfastly she refused to collapse beneath it. Even in the face of unimaginable grief, even when her heart was shattered by the loss of her son, Janelle stood upright, anchored by her love for her children and a quiet resilience Kody had never learned to handle. For years, Kody dangled the dream of building homes together on Coyote Pass, promising a shared future that was always just within reach. They would build, they would settle, they would grow old side by side. Janelle bought into that dream. She invested her money, her time, and her hope. She sacrificed more than anyone else when she gave up her rental home to move into an RV on that bare Arizona land. No one else in the family was willing to endure that sacrifice, but Janelle did it, believing in the dream even when it meant discomfort. It was her way of saying, "I still believe in this family's future, even if no one else does." But rather than supporting her courage, Kody mocked her choice. Instead of encouragement, she was met with scorn. He complained about the heat, the dust, the lack of comfort. He made it clear that he would not be joining her, not even to help. Meanwhile, Robyn enjoyed her massive luxury home, purchased with family funds, where Kody stayed comfortably every night. While Janelle faced the dust and the harsh desert winds, Robyn enjoyed stability and comfort, and the contrast was impossible to ignore. The inequality became too glaring to dismiss. Robyn had her home, her bills paid, and her children cared for. Janelle had raw land she could not build on, and promises that never materialized. And when she asked for access to her own money, hoping to finance her future and create something real for herself and her children, Kody resisted. He wanted control over the family's assets. He preached unity, but he practiced exclusion. Even then, Janelle did not scream or break down in tears on camera. She did not beg for his love or approval. Instead, she calmly pointed out the hypocrisy, spoke the truth aloud, and held Kody accountable for his own words. And when she realized he would never change, she walked away. Even after Garrison's death, even with her heart broken in ways that only a mother could understand, she refused to be manipulated into guilt. Kody tried to twist the narrative, shifting the weight of estrangement onto her shoulders. But Janelle saw through it. And more importantly, so did the audience. Janelle's strength was not loud, but it was steady. Her resolve was quiet, but it was unshakable. She didn't win fans by breaking down in tears, but by showing the calm dignity of a woman who would not be broken. And through her steadiness, the audience saw the contrast. Kody's failure wasn't only in his marriage, it was in his fatherhood, in his inability to rise to the moment when his family needed him most. Even before the family's full collapse, was broadcast on national television. Even before Garrison's tragedy and Janelle's heartbreak were exposed to the world, Christine had already seen the writing on the wall. She had already recognized what the others were hesitant to admit. Kody wasn't coming back, not emotionally, not financially, and not as a father. She saw the truth before anyone else dared to, and she became the first to break free, not because she stopped caring, but because she finally realized she had been fighting.
She thought was innocent, but it was...
Because she loved you?
No, she was attracted to me. I know she wasn't in love with me.
Christine had always been the soul of the Brown family, the one who carried the warmth and the joy of raising children, even when she wasn't truly acknowledged for it. She poured her heart into creating a loving environment, but everything changed with Isabel's spinal surgery. That was the moment when the illusion shattered, the moment when fans saw that Kody was no longer acting as a father. While his daughter faced a terrifying and life-changing procedure, vulnerable and in need of his presence, Kody refused to go. He pointed to COVID, he blamed travel, but the truth was obvious. This was not about safety. This was about convenience and comfort. He stayed home with Robyn, leaving Christine and Isabel to face the pain alone. For Christine, it was a defining moment. She never forgot the abandonment, and neither did the audience. Then came the battle over child support, a revelation that, Stunned fans who had assumed years of reality television paychecks would mean basic responsibilities were met without question. Yet after her split from Kody, Christine had to take him to court just to secure financial support for their daughter, Truly. A father who had benefited from Christine's emotional labor and sacrifices for decades was unwilling to provide for the child who still depended on him. Meanwhile, Robyn's household flourished. New furniture, expensive art, shelves filled with dolls. Christine could see with her own eyes the vastly different standards of care. It wasn't just favoritism. It was a different world entirely, and she had no place in it. Quietly, Christine began to step away. At first, it was subtle, but as she shared her journey with fans, the cracks in the glossy image of the Browns became undeniable. She didn't lash out, she didn't smear Kody's name, she simply told the truth, and that truth landed with far more force than any insult ever could. In leaving, Christine set the example. She showed that liberation was possible, that loyalty did not have to mean endless sacrifice. She proved that walking away could be an act of strength. And when Janelle and eventually Mary followed her path, it became clear that Christine had been the first to wake everyone up. She was the one who broke the spell, and Kody never saw it coming. If Christine exposed the reality, Mary became the painful reminder that obedience had never guaranteed love in Kody's universe. For years, Mary played the role Kody claimed he wanted: quiet, supportive, self-denying. She even legally divorced him so he could marry Robyn and adopt her children. She defended Robyn on camera when the rest of the family questioned her intentions. She endured public humiliation after the catfish scandal, all in a desperate attempt to show she was still loyal. Yet all of that obedience bought her nothing but rejection. Kody told the nation that he no longer considered himself married to Mary, leaving her to carry the public shame of his rejection. Even when Mary followed every shifting COVID rule, wearing masks, sanitizing, and isolating to meet Kody's standards, Robyn still managed to close the door on her, insisting that her presence wouldn't be fair to the other wives. The translation was clear. Mary's presence threatened the private bubble Robyn had carefully built around herself. Robyn's manipulation wasn't loud. It was subtle, but it was devastating. She kept Mary close enough to serve as a prop for family loyalty, praising her commitment when the cameras rolled, but shoving her aside when it came to intimacy or genuine belonging. At family events, birthdays, and holiday shoots, Robyn draped an arm around Mary, calling her best friend. But once the cameras stopped rolling, Mary was left on the outside again. Over time, the pattern became undeniable. Mary's only currency was her loyalty, and her loyalty was exploited. When ratings demanded unity, Robyn dangled small crumbs of affection. She offered half-hearted gestures, late-night talks, teary, wishes for sister-wife harmony, even the suggestion of surrogacy. But they were illusions. The moment those gestures no longer served a purpose, the mask slipped. By the time the other wives had walked away, Robyn stopped pretending altogether. Kody stopped pretending, and Mary was forced to confront the brutal truth that she had sacrificed everything only to be discarded once her loyalty no longer held value. Mary's story laid bare the hollow core of Kody and Robyn's dynamic. Loyalty was demanded, but never reciprocated. For viewers who had once seen Mary as desperate or naive, her eventual departure became a chilling lesson. Playing by the rules was never going to protect her, because the rules were always rigged from the start. As the Brown family fractured, one glaring truth stood out. Robyn's children lived in comfort and luxury, while the older children of Christine, Janelle, and Mary struggled, scraped by, and sacrificed just to meet their basic needs. Solomon and Ari lived in a $1 million home, enjoyed private schooling, toys, and full-time access to both parents. In contrast, the older siblings worked jobs during high school, joined the military, or navigated college without financial support. Isabel underwent a major spinal surgery without her father by her side, and truly needed a courtroom battle just to secure child support. Even Robyn's older children from her first marriage were provided with opportunities and luxuries: cars, designer purses, dance lessons, while Christine's kids shared bedrooms, and Janelle's kids stretched themselves thin just to create futures of their own. Fans couldn't ignore the disparity, and they couldn't forgive the knowledge that much of the wealth Robyn enjoyed came from family funds that had been built long before she entered the picture. Christine, Janelle, and Mary had contributed for decades, but when it came time to share, the definition of family changed. The benefits flowed one way, into Robin's home. The favoritism wasn't subtle, it was blatant, and it became a knife that sliced the family into pieces. And then, in the wake of Garrison's tragic passing, the accusations began to swirl. Fans whispered that Kody had even gone so far as to ask for control of Garrison's estate, despite being so absent from his son's life in the final years. The idea was chilling, almost unbearable to consider. Whether true or not, the very possibility shattered any remaining illusion that fatherly love was his motivation. When the cameras captured his confrontation with Janelle, it became undeniable. Rather than mourning with her, rather than acknowledging the pain of their loss, Kody raised his voice, turned the focus to his own suffering, and blamed her for everything. There was no humility, no remorse, only self-pity and rage. That moment broke the audience. It ended the debate. This was not a grieving father struggling to make sense of tragedy. This was a man clinging to his ego, unwilling to admit the cost of his neglect. Whatever mask remained, it fell completely. In its place, fans saw the truth. Kody was never the victim. He was the wrecking ball. The tragedy did not reveal love. It revealed the absence of it. In the aftermath of Garrison's death, the world did not see a man crushed by grief. They saw a man unraveling, exposed as someone who built his world on control rather than love, on power rather than compassion. Kody Brown failed not just his son, but his entire family. He placed his pride above their pain, rewrote history to protect his ego, and poured all his energy into defending Robin while abandoning the wives and children who had given him everything. This was never about plural marriage. It was about emotional abuse disguised as faith, about control hidden behind religion and reality television. Robin was always the exception, but the question fans continue to ask is, why? Why did her children get the comfort, the support, and the money, while the others were left behind? The favoritism wasn't hidden. It was sharp. It was deliberate. And it betrayed the family one child at a time. And now, even tragedy could not soften Kody's heart. For fans, the time for excuses is over. What they want is accountability. Families like the Browns exist beyond television, and too many suffer in silence under leaders who claim to act in faith while leaving destruction in their wake. To every viewer who has felt unseen, unloved, or manipulated by someone who claimed authority over them, Christine, Janelle, and Mary's stories strike like a warning. You are not alone. And as fans continue the conversation, they do so with a clearer understanding than ever before. Kody Brown was never the heart of this family. He was the force that tore it apart.